Hi, my name is Anita and I will be discussing interpersonal communication with Human Services 508, Liberty University, August 16, 2012. Next slide. During this presentation, I will discuss communication, identification of an overarching goal, definition of enlarging the conversation, description of how my background and behavioral blend have influenced my conversation. I will define the potential barriers in my interpersonal context and how I'm going to deal with each one. I will also identify and provide solutions to noise pollution, both internal and external. My plan of action. Next slide. Communication. Stewart defines communication as the continuous, complex, collaborative process of verbal and nonverbal meaning making. Next slide. Interpersonal communication. Stewart defines interpersonal communication as a subset of communication that includes collaboration, choices, culture, identities, conversation, and nexting. The term interpersonal labels the kind of communication that happens when the people involved talk and listen in ways that maximize the presence of the personal. Next slide. Listening. The concept of listening is acknowledged as an essential component of effective communication by many disciplines. Listening is also a deliberate act that requires a conscious commitment from the listener. Next slide. There are 3 levels of listening. We listen at all 3 levels during the course of the day. Level 1 is empathetic listening. Level 2 is hearing words. Level 3 is listening in spurts. Empathetic listening, the most important level, is listening from the heart. Next slide. Overarching goals. While reading the required text, I found that listening is a very important component and foundation of effective communication. An overarching goal in my life is to have patience and listen more effectively. When the sender is delivering the message, it is imperative that I remain quiet and listen to the message the sender is relaying. If an urge presents itself to interrupt the message, I will focus harder to remain quiet. Next slide. And another overarching goal for me is to become humble, listen, and wait on the Lord. Sometimes I ask God to show me things about a case and a revelation. Instead of waiting on Him, on His time, I will attempt to solve the problem, which will sometimes make the situation or issue worse. Next slide. Enlarging the conversation. Enlarging the conversation to me is elaborating on a conversation by effectively listening and responding to the subject matter. I can enlarge the conversation on any topic by providing examples and analysis on the information relayed to me. Next slide. My background. My background of where I'm from and where I've been influences my conversations with others. Morals, respect, and dignity taught to me in my younger years have enabled me to communicate better with a variety of people. Also, my faith in God has humbled and provided direction for my career goals. Behavioral blend. As described in the DISC personality assessment, the behavioral blend is composed of 4 types of behavior or temperaments that are blended to create a DISC, which is a unique personality for every individual. I have the CIS personality type. This personality type has influenced my conversation positively because I tend to be more faithful, considerate, thoughtful, sincere, honest, positive, optimistic, expressive, inquisitive, and direct. Next slide. Behavioral blend continued. While my behavioral blend have influenced my conversation positively, it also have influenced my conversation negatively by being too cautious at times. When I should be focusing on what the client is saying, I'm dissecting their every word in search for cues of the underlying issue or problem. Thinker. Sometimes I can overthink a situation and make the problem more complex than what it actually is. Direct. Being too direct at times can be intimidating to some. Having a softer, mundane approach could help with the conversation. Next slide. Barriers. As a direct and to the point person, there are some barriers that I face at times. I can come across as being too firm at times, and people may view me as being overconfident and demanding. My intentions are good, but the receiver may have a preconceived idea about me from earlier or previous discussions I've had with him or her. Next slide. I am a very expressive person. I maintain a level of professionalism, and I have a high expectation from each client when setting realistic goals. If I feel that they are not performing as they agreed to, I verbalize it and move on to the next task without any consideration of how they're feeling at the present moment. I could tone it down a bit and have patience to allow the client to achieve the goals that were created in their time. Next slide. At times I can be too inquisitive. When I have a feeling about a certain issue, I ask a multitude of questions. My questioning may be perceived as doubting the information I receive from the sender, or may also make that person think I don't believe them. With the help of God, I recognize my barriers in communication, and I trust and believe that He will help me with overcoming these obstacles. Next slide. External distractions. Burley Allen describes external distractions as background noises, machinery, traffic, faulty acoustics, clock watching, phone calls, deadlines, chewing gum, doodling, and tapping foot or pencil. Next slide. As well as external distractions, there are internal distractions. Internal distractions can include daydreaming, mental struggles, personal beliefs, values, stereotypes, and rehearsing what to say next. Solutions for internal and external distractions for me could be focusing on what the person is saying rather than waiting for a chance to interrupt to quickly provide solutions. Next slide. Solutions. Repeat accurately. Repeat the last paragraph, the last sentence, or the last word or two. Use the same words, phrasings, and intonation the talker used. This could be a solution for an external noise pollution. For an internal noise pollution, own your own feelings. When a strong emotion pops up in you while listening, share it, but keep it to a few words and get right back to the talker's story. Next slide. Plan of action. I will begin to pray that God will help me in the areas of my deficiencies. I believe that God will do all that I ask Him to do. The Holy Bible states in Colossians chapter 4, verse 6, "Let your speech always be gracious, seasoned with salt, so that ye may know how ye ought to answer every man." Next slide. Plan of action continued. It is revealed in the research that 38% of communication is comprised of audio codes, 55% body language, and 7% words. I will improve my interpersonal communication skills by observing body language and listening to audio codes. I will also carefully select my words in an attempt to enlarge the conversation. This in turn can result in more effective communication. Next slide. References. Thank you for listening to me as I discuss my interpersonal communication project for Human Services 508, summer session, August 16, 2012. The end.